If you want to shoot sports or wildlife or air shows, and you want to capture sharp details from far away, Tamron's new 150mm to 600mm zoom lens can make it happen. Hi, I'm Larry Becker. You know, these days it's an exciting time to be an enthusiast photographer. There's so much great gear, and advanced technology is available for a broader audience, not just the pros with the biggest budgets. For example, lenses with telephoto and super telephoto zoom ranges are more affordable, and the Tamron SP 150 to 600mm f5 to 6.3 DI VC USD lens is a perfect example. Let me say right now, I love this lens. It helped me reach out and capture distant objects, some of which were moving at a pretty high rate of speed, and it brought them in close and sharp. I shot a little wildlife, an air show with the fast-moving blue angels, some parachutists, and even an unusual white-spotted moth. Now that's a variety of subjects and focusing challenges, and the Tamron 150 to 600 really came through. One of the first things I noticed was the speed and silence of the autofocus motor. It was really quick to snap to focus. Even in lower light, when you'd expect focus hunting, it was still surprisingly snappy. Of course, some of the focusing behavior is going to be better or worse based on the camera you're using. I did all my testing using a Canon 6D, and while the focusing system is strong, it's not like the Pro system you would get with a 1DX. This lens is available for Canon mount, Nikon, and Sony mount systems. And since you can use it on a full frame or a cropped APS-C sensor camera, the focus systems of your particular camera will influence your experience with this lens. I bring this up because some of the entry-level DSLRs out there with less sophisticated focusing systems will not necessarily get the performance that I'm describing in this review, and a 5D Mark III or a 1DX will do even better than what I experienced. One other note is that the APS-C sensors are physically smaller than full-frame sensors, so there's a crop factor of 1.5x or 1.6x. So for example, if I put this same lens on my Canon 70D, my 35mm focal length equivalent is going to be a 240mm to 960mm lens. Finally, if you're relatively new to photography and you only use full autofocus, you'll get mixed results. Knowledge of how to use your camera's focus system will really improve your experience with a lens like this. Another thing I noticed was how crisp my images were, and that's no small task. I shot the Blue Angels at 600mm, and when planes are flying at 500 miles an hour and you're really zoomed in and you're hand holding the lens and camera, it takes more than just a fast shutter speed to capture sharp images. The vibration control built into this lens made a big difference for me, and I experienced crisp images throughout the entire zoom range. The only visual anomalies I noticed were minor, and they were easily corrected with Camera Raw or Lightroom processing. Specifically, I noticed a little chromatic aberration in high contrast areas, but it was so minor I had to zoom in to 100% on an unprocessed raw image to even see it. It wasn't visible on my JPEGs at all, and it was a quick one-click fix with Camera Raw. The only thing that's noticeable on JPEGs is the vignetting. You can easily see it in the air show blue sky images. But again, it's easy enough to fix if you want to, and in some cases I'd leave it there because it frames the images nicely. And honestly, I'd rather have sharp, color-accurate images that need a little vignette correction as opposed to something that's not just tack sharp. The wide end of the aperture range goes from f5 to f6.3. And that may limit you in some of the low light situations. However, for some photographers, it might make more sense to boost your ISO a little bit to get a 600mm f6.3 shot as opposed to a 600mm f4 image from a lens that might cost 10 times as much. As you'd expect with this well-built, sturdy lens, At 4.3 pounds, it is a bit heavy to handhold. And I should note that zooming does change the length of the lens. Then, when you add the lens hood, if you're shooting at an air show, you'll have camera buffs stopping to chat every few minutes. It seems like just about every scenario I was shooting had a few special circumstances, and in each case, the lens came through for me in a different way. As the Sun and Fun Air Show was receiving hundreds of visitors arriving by small plane, I was able to practice shooting from my backyard one Sunday evening. This Cessna was at about 2,000 feet on final approach, and I was able to get incredible detail with the 600mm end of the zoom. Across my backyard, a flock of ibises was combing through the grass, and I wanted to see how much detail I could get with the camera and lens mounted on a tripod. Now look at the shallow depth of field on this image, and look at the out of focus areas too. The soft out of focus areas are important when you're trying to capture certain artistic images and focus your viewer's attention. And the smoothness of the unfocused areas keeps the backgrounds from being distracting. And then, when you view this image at 100%, you can see the detail and vivid color in the eyes, the beak, and the face. The first thing I wanted to do when I got this lens was shoot a full moon image. This shot was easy to capture, and the detail is just as crisp as you would hope. With the naked eye, the moon seems like it's standing still in the sky, but when you zoom at 600mm, you realize the moon's travel across the sky is fast enough to see while you're looking through your viewfinder. The night I wrapped up the air show shoot, I was in my kitchen and I noticed a strange looking bug that I thought looked like a big fuzzy white bee with speckled wings right outside my window. I grabbed my camera, which still had the 150-600 on it, and I ran outside to photograph the little guy. Because of the low light at sunset, I bumped the ISO to 4,000 and I was able to shoot this handheld. And thanks to entomologist and PhD candidate Alex Gafke of MSU Bozeman, he told me that this is a type of moth called a dot-lined white moth. When you look at the detail of the moth and the size of the squares of the screen in this image, you realize the power that this 600mm zoom delivers. I'm only starting to think of all the interesting things I could shoot if I had a lens like this with me all the time. Now, if you think that an affordable zoom lens with such a long zoom range, quality image capture, and fast silent focusing sounds too good to be true, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when you get your own Tamron SP 150-600mm f5 to 6.3 DI VC USD lens. For B&H and Kelby One, I'm Larry Becker. Thanks for watching.
Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, B&H has the answers to your questions. Experience a world of technology at our New York City Superstore. Connect with us online or give us a call. Our staff of experts is happy to help.
Scott Kelby here, and welcome to this quick tour of our online training. We have hundreds of online classes for you, covering everything from lighting to landscape photography. From portrait photography to sports, we have classes on wedding, automotive photography, shooting, food, fashion, travel, you name it. The most incredible part of this is the price. You get all of this for just $199 a year, or you can pay monthly for just $24.95. 24-hour a day, 7-day a week access from anywhere in the world. I invite you to join with us today and start learning right now.